Teachers assumed an authoritarian role and the role of being the dispenser of information, and our role as students was basically to memorize the information that they provided. I can't really say that we were encouraged to develop our own capacities for thinking. To take that traditional school of education and transform it in the process of helping to bring about that change. Create an entirely new, comprehensive, theory-based educational model with an explicit philosophical foundation. When we wanted to put a person on the moon, the government went to the scientists and said, how much will it take? And we said millions and millions and millions of dollars. That was not the history of educational funding. Not until recently have we seen any real systematic infusion of scientific research. Research that has to do with how the brain functions, research that has to do with creating a theory of curriculum, a theory of pedagogy or teaching, a theory of evaluation, all of which were coherent and consistent and integrated into one entire system. We've created so many different approaches to the education of human beings without making any prior assumptions about the nature of the creature for whom we have developed these programs. So the beginning place really is a philosophical issue. What is the nature of human beings? How can we draw upon the best thinking about the nature of the student? If we're going to create an educational system that has the highest prospects of educating an individual, should we know what kind of individual we want to create? Otherwise, how do we know if we're on the right track? What is our purpose? And what are we capable of? What's the most magnificent set of assumptions that we can make about the nature of human beings based on science and based on the broadest philosophical perspective? The profession, in fact the world in general, has bemoaned the fact that we have no comprehensive theory of development. We have no comprehensive theory of pedagogy. We have no comprehensive theory of curriculum. We found the key to why the others had failed. The key was no serious philosophical work had been done. You cannot develop a comprehensive theory of development, a comprehensive theory of teaching or curriculum or evaluation without having a broader scheme of thought that then gives direction and guidance to how you put the pieces together. So in this effort of looking at both Eastern and Western streams of philosophical thought over the last 2,000 years, the team found a unique synthesis of all of that, represented in the process philosophy of Alfred North Whitehead, one of the crowning intellects of the 20th century. Now, philosophy has several branches. There's critical philosophy and speculative philosophy. Critical philosophy is largely organized around what we can understand and perceive through our senses. If we can't see it, smell it, taste it, hear it, and whatnot, touch it, then it's inadmissible. Speculative philosophy is willing to branch beyond what's immediately perceptible. And within speculative philosophy, the broadest scheme of thought is a cosmology. How everything in the universe is related to everything else. There's no broader scheme of thought in existence than a cosmology. And from that cosmology, we were able to gain a perspective on the nature of human beings. humans are capable of two basic capacities. One is that we are able to store the past, largely represented in memory and the cumulative number of skills and abilities that we can bring to bear on the present. We are able to store the past, and that's called immanence, I-M-M-A-N-E-N-C-E. So we have our immanence. We also have the capacity to go beyond the immediate present, and that's the capacity for transcendence. And transcendence has to do with bringing to bear some aspects of our immanence in the moment with an eye to where the direction towards which we are going. And from that philosophy, the ultimate goal of an educational system is to help the learner actualize his capacity, his infinite capacity for transcendence. The goal of the system is to ultimately not only teach how to learn, but to convey that process to the learner so that he or she can ultimately take over that responsibility and be the managing director and executor of one's own actualization process, one's own learning. The brilliant biologist Julian Huxley said that for all practical purposes, biological evolution has come to a standstill. But he said evolution continues nonetheless. It's a psychic evolution. It's an evolution of the mind. It's the evolution of consciousness. So the frontier of evolution is consciousness, not that we'll change appreciably in terms of our physical nature. He said, because of the human capacity for cosmic self-awareness, human beings are capable of taking charge of the most important work in the universe, namely directing evolution. The ultimate of the individualization of instruction is to give each student what he needs or she needs, when he or she needs it, and in the amount that that person can handle. We finally came to the conclusion that we should name that model the Anista model. Now, Anista is a word that's represented in several languages: Greek, Arabic, and it symbolizes the tree of life. And the tree of life, as a that symbol is represented in every culture, and it conveys a tree on a high place that promotes learning, development, and growth within the context of nurturance and protection. Education up to the present has largely been based on a model or a set of models that are geared towards storage and retrieval of information. In so many fields, what we considered in the past to be truths were found to be not so true or completely false. Today, that doubling of knowledge is occurring every 8 months. So if you have this burgeoning of knowledge, how could it be possible for an educational system that's based on storage and retrieval to ever be able to keep up with that phenomenon? We can have immediate access to any fact that's known in any place on this planet. So we don't have to try to memorize all of that. We have to know how to gain access to that information should we need it. What we really need is to be able to learn and to see learning as a lifelong phenomenon, and to be able to identify what periods of one's life is it best to learn what kinds of processes and information.